Talbat lobe pou mal pêcher c'est talent de l'eau pour tio vim yo gangou ça fait moins mal.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Le nou rive dans yon espace haïtien, le nou rive sous terre Haïti, nous commencer avec yon proverbe nou ka di, yon belle parole, moun yo kon mande pour honneur, et groupe lan kon répond avec respect. Good evening and greetings, everyone. Welcome to Kosamba's second installment of the Bwa Kayiman series. When we enter Haitian communities and when we touch Haitian soil, a speaker will begin by asking for honor, and the collective response is respect. So I'm going to ask you all for honor, and I will ask that you all reply avec respect. Honneur?
Respect.
Honneur?
Respect.
Une dernière fois. Honneur?
Respect.
Aïe bobo. Good
Aïe
evening.
bobo.
Bienvenue. You all are most welcome. I am Manbo Dr. Kira Malika Daniels. I'm an assistant professor of African American Studies at Emory University. And it is my esteemed pleasure to welcome you this evening to our Seeds of Liberation event. This is, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, our second event in a series all dedicated to honoring and commemorating our fight for freedom and for justice as Haitians, as descendants of Africa, and as lovers of freedom all over the world. Seeds of Liberation was conceived this year, but it has been burning in so many of our hearts for so long. We began this series on August 14th, acknowledging that August 14th, 1791 was a Congress, a gathering, a ceremony, a political and Pan-African communal effort to bring voices, hearts, spirits, minds, bodies together for one goal: Black liberation and self-determination. We here tonight are continuing this series, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to Seeds of Liberation, Bwa Kayiman, music and Creole languages as tools for spiritual liberation. I know that we will have an opportunity to open formally with prayer, but I will let you all know that we have the opportunity to hear from 4 esteemed panelists this evening. Our moderator will be Dr. Marie-Lily Cerat, who has just closed out a magnificent Haitian Studies conference at CUNY in New York City. And we give thanks and praise to all of those who participated in person and for those who attended in other ways at the Haitian Studies Conference. I know we have a current president, HSA, with us here, Dr. Cécile Axelien, and incoming president, Dr. Regine Jackson. So we all welcome you and thank you for your service and your commitment to Haiti and to uplifting our communities. Our panelists this evening will be Manbo Alexandra Saint-Tellien, Dr. Louis Phillippe Romeo, who will be joining us virtually, an out of time practice, but joining us with full heart just the same, and our esteemed Houngan, Dr. Gerdès Fleurant. With that, I'm going to turn the floor to our Manbo Doctor priestesses, Manbo Dr. Khadidra Martin, and Manbo Dr. Charlene Desir. Mabdi honneur, respect encore. And we are so looking forward to a scintillating conversation and exchange this evening. Ay bobo, bilolo.
Ay, bobo.
Ay, bobo.
Well, we welcome you in ceremonial space. Now we have this virtual ceremonial space, and we have to use all the energies that is embedded in every space that we convene in honoring our ancestors and the legacy of what Bwa Kayiman means. I'm supposed to be in prayer, but I want to be in justice. I want to be in liberation. I want to be in love. The consciousness of coming together in prayer and ceremony is an act of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And Bwa Kayiman was the ultimate idea that was brought into reality. We are the dream manifested of our ancestors. We are the resistance song. We are the love joy of Black everywhere on this planet. So I embrace this space and I call on our collective ancestors who have conspired for us to be in ceremony tonight to light a fire within us that we know the magnitude of what IET gave the world and continue to give, that position ourselves to take hits as we continue to resist those things that don't serve the cosmic energies that we serve. Let ancestor, creator, and divine wise, the orishas, the fundamental joys that exist in the creation of our making come together and honor us in this space to give homage, to give prayer, to give light to IET and all those that struggle and resist and understand and recognize the urge to be liberated, to recognize the solidarity around liberation, to recognize that IET continues to give herself over and over again so that we can wake in the journey of love and liberation. And with that, I ask you to always have the vibration. When we say love, we say liberation. When we say liberation, we say love. Ayi bubu.
Ay, bobo. Ay, bobo. Thank you. Manbo Doctor. We are here, the two of us, as a representation of diasporic solidarity. We are both daughters of IET from different lineages. And in this show of unity, we are here, we're asking for light. As a Black American, I'm here in solidarity with some Haitian lineage. I'm here in solidarity with all of my Haitian American and the diaspora brothers and sisters. It's very important for those of us of African descent to stand up in liberation, to have the courage to stand up for our brothers and sisters in IET and throughout the diaspora. And we're asking for light. We're asking for light right now. We're praying for light for IET. We're praying for light for all of those who need light right now. And in that vein, there's a song that we like to sing in Vodou that's actually calling on light. It's asking for light to clarify us, to clarify the children. So this is how it goes. Lumière, oh, lumière ça, c'est bon clair, Timon yo. Lumière, oh, lumière ça, c'est bon clair, enfants yo. Depuis na Guinée, n'a servi au long. Depuis Daomen, n'a servi au long. Lumière, oh, lumière ça, c'est bon clair, enfants yo. Lumière, oh, lumière ça, c'est bon clair, Timon yo. Lumière, oh, lumière ça, c'est bon clair, enfants yo. Depuis na Guinée, n'a servi au long. Depuis Daomen, n'a servi au long. Lumière, oh, lumière ça, c'est bon clair, enfants yo. Aïe bobo, aïe bobo, aïe bobo.
Aïe bobo.
And now, it is my immense honor, again in the spirit of unity, to introduce our amazing, wonderful, beautiful moderator, Dr. Cerat. Dr. Marie-Lily Cerat is director of the CUNY Haitian Studies Institute at Brooklyn College and teaches in the Africana Studies Department. She has worked in the K through 16 New York public education system as a bilingual Haitian Creole classroom teacher, a staff developer, and a college teacher for over 20 years. A post-colonial scholar and culturally responsive pedagogue, Dr. Cerat examines the effects of the exclusion of Haitian language, culture, and history in the education of Haitian learners. Her research articles have appeared in Rethinking Schools, the Journal of Haitian Studies, and the International Journal of the Sociology of Language. Along with Patrick Sylvain and Jalane Tamara, Dr. Cerat co-edited the book, Education Across Borders, Immigration, Race, and Identity in the Classroom, published by Beacon Press in 2022. Dr. Cerat is a well-respected community organizer who co-founded Haitian Women for Haitian Refugees in 1992 to provide ESL and adult literacy instruction to Haitian immigrants and refugees. Today, the organization also offers leadership training focused on obtaining civil, educational, social, economic, and immigrant justice. So please join me in welcoming my fellow Brooklynite and CUNY Urban Education Doctoral Program sister, Miss Dr. Marie-Lily Cerat. We're so excited to have you. Thank you so much.
I am honored. I'm really honored and humbled by this generous introduction. It's an honor to be in such great companies, people that have inspired me, people that continue to inspire me every day, and of course, the people who will be following in our footsteps in the very near future. the younger generation. My most significant role tonight again is really to present the speakers who will be enlightening us and teaching us, exchanging with us, be in dialogue with us. And I would like, and of course, Dr. Houngan, Dr. Gerdès Fleurant, whose books, Dancing Spirits, I look to every morning. I've said that over and over. That's the first book I see when I turn to my left. So it's an honor to introduce Houngan Asogwe, Dr. Gerdès Fleurant, an inspiration, who's an ethnomusicologist specializing in African and Caribbean folk and traditional music, with a focus on the Rada Rite of Haiti. He's an emeritus professor of music at Wellesley College. As an applied ethnomusicologist, he advocates for the preservation and promotion of culture in addition to the music that is studied. In 1989, he coined the term humanocentrist, which describes research methods that place the person at the center of discourse, emphasizing the complementarity and solidarity of the human race. In 1996, Houngan Dr. Fleurant published his landmark text, Dancing Spirits, Rituals and Rhythms of Haitian Vodou, the Rada Rite. For the past 2 decades, he has dedicated his energy and research to building the Gaouguinou project in Mirbalais, a pivotal town in the Central Plateau of Haiti, along with his spouse and partner, Floriane Saint-Ile. The project includes the Léocardi and Alexandra Kinskov Cultural Center, the Gaouguinou Elementary School, and other cultural, educational, and holistic centers aimed at cultural preservation. A founding member of both the Haitian Studies Association and COSAMBA, he remains active in the diasporic Haitian community through advising and mentoring. Since retiring in 2005, Houngan Dr. Fleurant continues his work in research, teaching, and lecturing on Haiti's culture, the Pan-African experience, and Vodou. Please help me welcome Houngan Asogwe, Dr. Gerdès Fleurant. The next speaker will be Manbo Alexandra Tellien, who's a Haitian PhD student of African American Studies at Emory University, and is both a Woodruff Fellow and Centennial Scholar. She's from Gonaïve, Haiti, and a Manbo in Northern Vodou's Cha-Cha de Calinéage. With a BA in Linguistics from the University of Florida and an MA in Anthropology, Linguistic from Georgia State University, her areas of interest are Indigenous African and African heritage, religious traditions at the intersection of language, culture, and semiotics, and African-derived ritual and sacred languages and communications as a body of knowledge. Alexandra's doctoral research investigates langage, Haitian Vodou ritual language, as a language of devotion that connects Vodouvi, devotees, to various West and Central African communities and lineages in deep and meaningful ways. Her work aims to powerfully narrate the African legacies and cultures rooted in Vodou and charge the African diaspora with the mission of Sankofa. Alexandra was a Fulbright U.S. student in Grand Bassam, Côte d'Ivoire. She also served as a curatorial research assistant intern at the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. And the last person, not least, to present is Dr. Louis-Philippe Romer, who will be joining us virtually, not virtually, but from another distance removed. He's a lecturer of anthropology at Vassar College. His research and teaching lie at the intersection of linguistic anthropology, political anthropology, media studies, and Africana studies. Dr. Romer is currently working on a book titled Strategic Ambiguities, Race, Class, and Populism on the Caribbean Airwaves, an analysis of how politicians and activists engage in populist discourse on talk radio to redefine racial and class identities, build coalitions, and reshape the public imagination of what is politically possible. A second project will investigate the making and unmaking of racial and colonial hierarchies through an ethnography of tech work and social media activism in the Caribbean. His research has been supported by the Werner Grand Foundation and the Prins Bernhard Culture Funds of the Netherlands, among other sources. In addition, he is committed to public scholarship on the Global South, and his writing has appeared in international venues such as Al Jazeera English, the Daily Maverick, South Africa, Lilith Magazine, the Netherlands, and The Extra in Curacao. So please help me again welcome with a big round of applause these three speakers, and we will begin with the presentation of Houngan Assogwe, Dr. Gerdès Fleurant.
Aïe Bobo,
Aïe Bobo,
honneur, respect.
respect.
It gives me great pleasure and satisfaction to participate in this fantastic panel discussion, and to also see that those of us who are elders on our way out, we can see la relève, the younger generation, which is picking up the struggle, and they are doing very well. So I'm very proud of all of you. I'm delighted to be with you and to participate, to have a chance to say a few words. In fact, I'm going to listen as much as I can because there's so much I can learn from all of you young people. And talking about Bwa Kayiman and music of liberation, this is fantastic, this is great. Let me say that some 40 years ago, when we began working on Voodoo, I could not imagine that we would be where we are now. My experience growing up in Haiti, in the Protestant church, where you have a complete separation between Haitian culture, Haitian reality, with Voodoo. So I had no idea that we would be there. So I don't know how we're going to proceed because there's a long story. And I was told that we will have some questions and answers, but I'm prepared to answer some questions, to participate in the discussion. But I can tell you I am overjoyed to see that where we are, particularly when Voodoo has been maligned for so many years. And the first people who have been standing up in academia to present Voodoo have done a wonderful job. I don't need to go mentioning all the names, but it's important to understand that now we are at a point we have a series of doctors, PhDs, who are also practitioners of Voodoo, because Voodoo was presented as an activity, as a practice of people from the countryside, Monadoyo, who are not part of the dialogue. Although without these people, we would not have had the information that we are participating, that we are sharing with you right now. So it's very interesting to see now you have a series of young people, well educated, well informed, and who can stand up and affirm themselves as Houngan, Manbo practitioners, and this is just great. So I'm going to still stop here because there's much more to be said later. I don't know exactly how it's going to go on with the others, but I'm prepared to come in. But the last thing I want to say, I feel fulfilled that we can go, but the young people are there, and in the next 10, 15, 20 years, voodoo is going to continue to shine. And along with voodoo, which is the central, the épine dorsale of Haitian society, Haiti itself, which is going through a very difficult period, will begin to see some new days. Aibobo. You following with me?
Oui, papa. Merci en pile. Merci.
So
Okay, thank you.
Comme on dit, as we say in Creole, m'passe kon nan ba nou.
Okay, honored. And thank you so much for these wise reflections on voodoo and really recognizing the young folks who also understand why voodoo was so maligned. And of course, we know in our work that without voodoo and the Haitian Creole that created that space, voodoo created that space where we could build unity to achieve this remarkable revolution. And in essence, the colonials or neo-colonials understood that and began this narrative of voodoo being bad. But it's really the fear that they know the capacity for us to be united, to think for ourselves in that space that voodoo creates. I guess that's the reason why there is a constant attack on voodoo. And I'm most like you. I'm delighted that that many of us recognize that and we're fighting back. And I think really, despite the fact that it is so disheartening in Haiti, the work that we're doing, uplifting voodoo, affirming that culture, I think is one of the portals of really resolving or moving forward the democratic project that our ancestors started. So thank you so much for all of that. And now it's your turn, Manbo, Alexandra Tellien, one of these younger generations that is affirming and uplifting that identity that we so badly need to uplift and return to.
Thank you, Dr. Cerat. Thank you, everyone, Kosamba, and to the Bwa Kayiman community and collective for putting on this fabulous webinar. I'm super excited to get started. But before I do, I would like to give thanks to Olowum for this breath of life. I want to give and honor my family's lineage, my maternal side and my paternal side. And I do have a couple of slides that I would like to share with you all. Just let me know if y'all can see my screen. Just give me a thumbs up. Folks can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
We can see you, Manbo.
Okay, thank you. I would like to start this presentation with an ode to Daphne Jacques, whom we all affectionately knew as Gunzana. For many of us, Gunzana was a true Kamwezun in Haitian culture and identity. To me, she was the definition of femme vaillant. Hey, Vim pale ou même oui, ou même, ou même, ou même. Hey, t'aimes dire, ma pas prendre parler langue haïtienne. Ou tande, moi dis ma pas prendre parler langue haïtienne. Qui ça? Parler haïtien. Oui, c'est ça. Parler haïtien. Langue haïtien parler à. Ou pas haïtien? Oui, moi c'est haïtien. Moi pas qu'on parler langue nan bien. Voir pour m'ta écrit. Hey, écoutez non. Ma pas prendre haïtien pour moi qu'attendre, penser, sentir douleur ak souffrance pepsi là. Ma pas prendre connaît penser ak l'espoir pepsi là. Hey, tendez. Ma pas prendre parler haïtien. Oui, parler haïtien. Ma apprendre identité à culture haïtien. Tendez, non. Ah, quête. Pas fait comme si ou pas là. Pas fait comme si c'est pas à coup m'a parlé. Pas fait comme si ou pas tendez. Moi connais ou pas soud. Ah, en nous bouiller. Ou pas reconnaître tête ou. Mais bon di ou non. Ou pas connaît, m'a cherché sous liberté peuple haïtien. M'a cherché droit grandette magel. Pour moi ka joindre support qui pour soulever nan moi. Eh, pas courir. Tendez non, pas faire mes oreilles ou pas connaît langue incarnée qu'il ti l'espoir ak mémoire yon pep. Bon m'aller. Ou pas vle tendem. OK. At the start of this prezi or poem, Gonzana calls out, hey, vin pale ou même oui, ou même. Like Gun making this call, there are moments in our lives when our ancestors call out to us, not in whispers, but in thunderous voices we can't ignore. It might be a Nandomi dream, in a memory, or in the beating of Nago drums carried forth by the wind. The voices pulls you, forces you to pause. It's a call to remember, to réclamer something deep within, a langage, a rhythm, a living history that lives in our bones. In this poem, Gonzana reminds us that langue haïtien is not a language to learn for the sake of learning, but that the Haitian language in its full depths is like a spiritual call. A reminder that to speak our native tongue is to honor our ancestors, not to be scared to know ourselves, to reconnect with the source of our liberation, our Bwa Kayiman, for she expressly states, ma pa pren haïtien pou mwen katande, penser, sentir douleur ak souffrance pepsi la. She wants us to chasser sous liberté pep haïtien, to truly listen, hear the thoughts, the pain, and the suffering of a people is where liberation begins. These words remind us that the language of our African ancestors brought to the colony of Saint-Domingue carried a revolutionary force in the way of our collective struggle for sovereignty. Our langue is our spiritual tool, the embodiment of our culture, history, and memory. Across the Haitian diaspora, from Miami to Montreal, Paris to Boston to Canada to New York and many other places, the Haitian language remains a way to affirm Haitian identity. Speaking Kreyol is an act of cultural pride, a way of holding onto history and resisting the forces of a complete cultural assimilation. Many Haitian communities use Kreyol to connect with each other and to pass down stories, traditions, and memories to younger generations. In everyday conversations, in music, in religious ceremonies, and in protests, Kreyol continues to be language of empowerment and resistance as its birth in the colony. And so I ask, like Gonzana, est-ce que vous parlez haïtien? Do you speak Haitian? In Africana religions, cosmologies, and worldviews, languages, especially the words of a language, are imbued with divine force, also known as Ashe amongst the Yoruba and Yoruba-derived spiritual traditions. Ashe represents that divine force or power that flows through our words, through our actions and beings. Ashe thus turns language into action. Through an Africana understanding of language, words can shape reality, heal, transform, create, and even destroy and curse. This concept of Ashe is also found in Haitian Vaudou's ritual and liturgical language, langage. I define langage as connaissance, an esoteric divine ritual and liturgical language that blends various West and Central African languages and epistemologies. Langage emerges as a sacred method of communication that embodies the sacred corpus of knowledge handed down through generations by our dantans, the ancestors, the loi, the Vaudou divinities. Langage encompasses the various traditional communicative modalities, including songs, proverbs, riddles, oral histories, anecdotes, sacred symbols, to name a few. When spoken, langage opens the doorway between the human world and the spirit realm, calling on the spirits to intercede and act. Because langage is imbued with force or vital force akin to the Yoruba Ashe, it also commands, it mobilizes, it creates, it protects. Therefore, when we talk about liberation in the context of Black Atlantic religions, we cannot overlook the essential role that sacred language plays in the process of freeing the land, the body, and the spirit. And in the context of Haiti, the relationship between sacred language and Kreyol and liberation become most evident when we analyze critical moments in history where this language was mobilized to fuel revolutionary action. One of the most potent examples is Boukman's prayer at Bwa Kayiman. According to Haitian oral and textual repositories, Daddy Boukman was a Houngan, a Vaudou priest. And in August 1791, he stood before a group of enslaved Africans and delivered a powerful prayer that helped spark the Haitian Revolution. His prayer goes, Bon Dieu qui fait la terre, qui fait soleil, qui éclaire nous en haut, qui soulève la mer, qui fait l'oreille gondée. Bon Dieu nous qui gen oreilles pour tendre, ou qui caché dans nuage, k'ap gade nous côté où y est là. Ou est tout ça blanc fait nous sibi. Dieu blanc yo mande crime. Bon Dieu qui nous en vle bien fait. Bon Dieu nous an qui si bon, qui si juste, qui li ordonne vengeance. C'est lui qui a conduit bois nous pour nous remporter la victoire. C'est lui qui a ban nous assistance. Nous toutes faites pour nous jeter portrait Dieu blanc yo qui soif de l'eau dans gel. Côté voix la liberté cap chanter nan ken nous. So the God who created the earth, who created the sun that gives us light, the God who holds up the ocean, who makes the thunder roar, our God who has ears to hear, you who are hidden in the clouds, who watch us from where you are. You see that the whites have made us suffer. The white man's God asked him to commit crimes, but the God within us wants to do good. Our God who is so good, so just, orders us to avenge our wrongs. It's our God who will direct our arms and bring us victory. It's our God who will assist us. We all should throw away the image of the white man's God who is so pitiless. Listen to the voice for liberty that sings in our heart. As a Vaudou scholar interested in applying linguistic approaches to the study of Haitian Vaudou, I position Boukman's prayer as a sacred invocation rather than an ordinary speech given. He called upon Olowum or Bon Dieu to reject the colonial God imposed onto the people and instead embracing the spiritual power of his own tradition. Boukman's prayer united the enslaved Africans linguistically, spiritually, and politically, as these two things can never be separate. It gave them the strength, the courage, and the spiritual mandate to rise up and fight for their freedom. The power of his sacred words mobilized a revolution that ultimately led to the world's first successful uprisings of enslaved peoples of at least 21 different African ethnic groups and the creation of the first Black republic in the Western Hemisphere. His langage, in the form of a sacred prayer in Kreyol, is about reclaiming the identity, the heritage, and the power to resist colonization, erasure, and oppression. Contemporarily, Haitian communities across the globe continue to demonstrate that deep resilience in connection to their spiritual and cultural roots and their utilization of langage and ceremonies dedicated to the liberation of Haiti, because langage will continue to fuel the spirit of liberation, inspiring new generations to uphold their heritage and strive for a better Haiti. And in looking at the state of our people, it is time for us to use our langage and other indigenous African languages to invoke and garner the force of our loi and danti to enact change for our people. And similarly to the beginning, I would like to end, but really to start this, and similarly to the beginning, I would like to end, but really to start this presentation with the offering of the Boukman song, sung by my grandmother, Nana Meritan, also a true femme vaillant.
Bwa Kayiman, Baba Gupano, Baba Gupano, j'arrive dans ta bouteille, pays me divisé, la famine de Vado. Non pas tes fêtes, Bwa Kayiman, une servie étranger. Le groupement, Bwa Kayiman. Dis-moi non, mais non, on va pas détourner, Bwa Kayiman. Papa groupement, non, assez. Papa groupement, non, arrivé dans ton bouton, pays me divisé, la famille de ados. Non pas de fête, Bwa Kayiman, une servie étrangère.
Et avec ça, moi dis nous merci et moi dis à Oshanago.
Merci en pile, Manbo. Merci. Merci. This was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your beautiful grandmother with us.
Thank you.
Woo! Powerful. Thank you so much. And so Dr. Romer, unfortunately, is feeling under the weather. However, even in that, he so graciously did go ahead and record his presentation for us. And so I am going to now share it with us all. So just give me one moment.
Four Papiamento Songs for a Liberated Future by Phillippe. Today I will be presenting you a playlist of 4 songs from the oral archive that come to us from ancestors through generations and generation. So Papiamento is a Portuguese Creole. The Papiamento lexicon is mostly Portuguese, and it has also attested substrate influences from Senegambian and Kwa languages of West Africa. On Curacao specifically, there are attestations of another Creole spoken as a secret language only among slaves. And this language is known as Guinea, which of course refers to the land where the enslaved people originated from. In Papiamento is Guinea, right? This is a map of the ABC Islands showing their location in the Caribbean basin. Right here, in the southern rim of the Caribbean next to Venezuela. So now it's time for the first song. And I will just start playing it and you can read along. The English translations are to your right. The Papiamento is to the left. Okay, so what we just heard is Tiki Manera, sung by Martili Peters, who was born in 1900. And this is a song that he heard from his grandparents and parents. And he was told that this song is a song that comes from the times of enslavement. As we can read, especially on the second part of the lyrics, Pekadomi masimalu, wara masimalu, pekadota marmorami, right? It really expresses this double bind, this state of a complete catch-22, of total dishonor, right? That in the literature has come to be known as social death. Let's move on to the next song. This song has a lyric in Guinea, which I have illustrated here in red. Go bile bile biboto ilo. And this song is a song about marronage. It used to be sung in the moments when enslaved people in Curacao knew it was safe to make a run for it, to escape the plantations, maybe run to the city. And usually the options were that you went in a boat that was coming into town and you'd stow away, you bribe the captain, and then you go back on shore on another island, another place, and assume a different identity. That was the main avenue for marronage in Curacao, known as maritime marronage. But let's listen to the song, Bobile Bile Biboto Ilo, sung by Elia Isenia, who was taught this song by Martili Peters, who is the singer in the first recording. But let's hear it now.
Anto ama pone go bile bile biboto ilo. Toro taura mi, tabatoro un poco mi. Go bile bile biboto ilo. Tanapunda mi shonsa, otro banda tambe shonsa. Tanapunda mi shonsa, otro banda tambe shonsa. Go bile bile biboto ilo.
So this song, it's sung in a slightly coded way so that the overseers wouldn't necessarily understand what was being conveyed, both with the use of Guinea, which only enslaved people really knew to sing and to speak, and also with the use of these metaphors. The bull cursed me, but the bull cannot catch me. Yeah, is a type of verbal camouflage. In the recording, you can hear Elia Isenia using her voice to emphasize the beat, right, that is behind the song. So the song carries a certain rhythm with it, and in her performance, you could hear that rhythm. The clave that comes from West Africa, that you find also in many other forms of music in the Caribbean, that ta, 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 ta. All right, let's move on to the next example. There are many versions of this song that have been sung, many versions of this song. And they go back to a moment in Curaçao's history that is actually intimately connected to the history of the Haitian Revolution, which is the Curaçao slave revolt of 1795. Since 1795, the influence of the Haitian Revolution has made itself part of the oral repertoire of the enslaved people and their descendants. And so through the phrase liberté, égalité, that history is being referenced. In 1795, the slave revolt happens in Curaçao because the enslaved people, through rumor and whisper networks, come to hear of André Rigaud promising freedom to all under French rule. The enslaved of Curaçao, in archival records, the enslaved people mention a letter, apparently that André Rigaud had sent around the Caribbean, announcing that slavery was to be abolished imminently. This rumored letter has never been found, but nevertheless, one of the enslaved people in Curaçao took it upon themselves to realize, to make a demand. The leader of this revolt in Curaçao was named Tula, and he took for himself the name Rigaud, after André Rigaud. Familiarity with French and with Haitian Creole among Population speakers has been attested in archival documents. A witness to the Curaçao revolt has testified that when the enslaved people were on their march towards the city center in Curaçao, Willemstad, to demand the freedom which they believed was owed to them, they were, according to this witness, singing songs in French and in Creole. Some of the slogans recorded on the archive include phrases such as "Le curé vient ici pour nous cajoler," and the other one is "Nous sommes ici pour vaincre ou mourir." Now, the slogan that we see here from the Revolutionary era that has been preserved through oral memory and not through archives, but simply through song from generation to generation, is this one: Libertà, Égalité. There have been many versions of this song, as I already mentioned when I first showed the slide. This is a version that precedes the abolition of slavery, anticipating the abolition of slavery, demands the abolition of slavery, demanding, not grateful, but in the tone of give us what we deserve, what we are entitled to. This version comes through us through Mervelita Conveniencia, who was born in 1903, and whose testimony was recorded by Alice Juliana and Paul Branniger in 1959. I will sing the version of the song. Libertà, Égalité, la reina Victoria mande copan. Libertà, Égalité, Willem III mande copan. Libertà, Égalité, la reina Victoria mande copano. Libertà, Égalité, Willem III mande copano. Libertà, Égalité. Let's move on to the fourth song. And this song, Bwa Kayiman, has its leading phrase also in Guinea, the language that was spoken as a secret language only among the enslaved. And what it means is the yoke, submission, is no more. And let's hear how it was sung.
Bwa Kayiman, Bwa Kayiman, I show my cabana boom. I show my cabana pa, Kayiman, Bwa Kayiman, show my cabana boom. I jackalabata you. Ai Jakabutame sa Kaiman Juku Kaiman Jakabutame sa Kaiman Juku Kaiman Jakalo Bakikama Kaiman Juku Kaiman Shoma Kabana Pa Ai Shoma Kabana Bon Kaiman Juku Kaiman Juku Kaiman Shoma Vinava Shona Tamina Pa Kaiman Juku Kaiman ai Kaiman Juku Kaiman ai Kaiman Juku Kaiman.
So this song, the recording you just heard, was made by Alexandra, and the singer is Maria Dora. In this song, she sings, of course, Kaiman Juku Kaiman, the yoke is no more. But I think some of the lyrics here are well worth paying attention to. Ay siyong makabana boom. Ay siyong makabana pas. I ended it well. I ended it in peace. And this was meant to be a rebuke to the slave owners' fear-mongering propaganda about vengeance and retribution. Hopefully these songs are not only helping us remember what we struggled against, but what we continue to struggle for to this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Romer. Fascinating. Can't wait to hear the questions and the discussion that come up about this.
Thank you. Thank you to our presenters, all of them, who took us on this journey to understand the voodoo practices, the language, the Creole language practices of our ancestors, born in the context of resistance, Andaki really was used for them to think about their conditions, to discuss their condition, think of freedom, think of liberation, to use to problem solve, to pass knowledge down to us, used to build, really preserve and protect our identities, our African identities. Thank you so much to Houngan Dr. Gerdès Fleurant, Dr. Romer, and Manbo Alexandra Tellien for pulling those songs, those words, and make them alive and show us also where we need to go to retrieve certain tools so that we can achieve liberation in this present moment. And I'm talking for here and also at home, because these have so many tools in them, so many things they left to us. And when we were silent, like W.E.B. Du Bois said, when we turn off all this noise, we can find those langage, we can find those words that we can use as tools for liberation, even in 21st century, in the 21st century world. So with that, I mean, I'm a lover of Creole language and I'm a voodoo practitioner. I grew up in the context of it. So I'm going to have an amazing evening. I guess I can begin with the questions. And the first one goes to Houngan Dr. Gerdès Fleurant. And it's, could you share with us something that has surprised or inspired you in your research on Creole and Haitian music? And you can take as much as 5 minutes to talk to us, to take us on a journey.
Can you hear me?
We can
you hear me?
Now
Yes?
we can. Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah. Well, first I have to say Aibubo for my co-presenters, and really again, listening to the scholarship and the work of the young people, fill me with joy. it's very interesting that I was telling you, I grew up in the Protestant context, and I did not grow up practicing voodoo. However, you cannot escape it. It's all over the country. Next to the Baptist church, where I spent my first 13 years, there was a peristyle just next door. And they sing, as you knock, as you knock, you know, and when they sing Chant d'Espérance in one area in the church, but the voodoo was there. It's all over the place. So I became interested, and in fact, I've been called much later. And I had a parcours before that as a graduate of the École Normale Supérieure, as a church organist at the Église Episcopale, and all that. But when I was called, then I said, well, okay. In fact, let me tell you the story. I was in political exile from 1964 to 1982. That's 18 years. And I given up on Haiti. I was not going to come back. The dictatorship was raging. So many of my friends went to school with me. People have been arrested, put in jail, and killed. So I decided I was fed up with Haiti. I was done. When it came back, when the time came for me to go back home, and in fact, I have to mention the name of the late Veuve Clark, who herself is African American, but has been working in Haiti. And I was going to do my research on the music of the Calypso and the Soca of Trinidad. And she said to me, well, if anyone has to do anything in music, you have to do something on the music of Haiti. And I said, oh, that's a good thing. Well, I'll try that. But I think nowadays I'm going to just study the music, you know, from an ethnomusicological perspective and looking at the music, the scales, and the intonation. But I was not going to get involved at all in voodoo. However, when I began to talk to some people, I went to interview some Houngan, and everybody I talked to, oh, look at him, you're a Houngan. I said, no. Myself, I'm Marxist, you know, I'm somebody, you know, I'm an intellectual. I have nothing to do with that. No, you're Houngan. So this is the way that it's. So that's a big surprise. The other name I need to mention is the name of Teji Ito, the late Teji Ito. He was the third husband of Maya Deren. And when Maya was in her 40s and Teji was basically in his early 20s. And he's a Japanese American. And he spent 7 years in Haiti studying the music of voodoo. And strangely enough, he was my first drumming teacher, because there is no way you're going to study the music unless you know how to play. This is one of the approaches that we have in ethnomusicology. So it's clear. And I said, well, now I could play the drum, but to do it well, the way it's supposed to be done, you have a chorus of 3 drums, the mama tambour, the second, and the bula, and have it done well. And there was nobody, I was in Boston, who could teach me, and there was no question for me of returning to Haiti, because that means imprisonment or death. So this is when I began to meet people who prepared me spiritually to return to Haiti. But when I went to meet Teji, it was a story that I haven't told elsewhere before. And of course, Veuve Clark arranged for me to meet Teji, and I went and met him. And when I walk in and he looked at me, he said, oh yeah, you are the guy I was been waiting for. So we began to talk, and I was excited. I wanted to play. He said, no, I'm not going to play now. He spent 3 hours talking to me about voodoo, Santeria, Candomblé, the African tradition. And Teji was very well schooled in that tradition. And at the end of about 3 hours, and he said, you can go home. And so I went home and said, come back tomorrow. And then when I came back, he pulled from underneath his bed a big trunk in which there were the tips and all the music of my Darren. And he said, I have been saving that music, for years, and I was waiting for the person who is going to be using it, and that's yours. And that began a big change, and we began to work. Of course, I was going to go back to Haiti to study the drumming with one of the leading drummers, whose name is Philoclès Ozambert, the late Philoclès Ozambert. But you cannot go to the master, as a tenderfoot. So Teji was the one to dégrosser to get me into the learning and the way that it is done. So unfortunately, Teji passed away. Then I sent for Coyote, Philoclès Ozambert, because I could not go back to Haiti. It would be suicidal. And at that time, we were basically in 1979, 80. And I sent for Coyote, for Philoclès Ozambert, who came to Boston and spent 2 weeks with me and teaching me the music and the voodoo and the tradition. In the meantime, I had gone to the first ceremony of the lave-tête. And it's extremely important because the lave-tête is the first introduction into voodoo. You cleanse your head because those of us who are living in the Western European context, in this kind Cartesian, Aristotelian context, we need to cleanse our head, our mind. And so the lave-tête was the first. So I had a lave-tête. I also had a promesse, because the promesse is what you do, that you make this introduction. So I had several Houngans and Manbo who came in to help me. But when they came in, there was, oh, gee, you are going to be doing great things. I thought, well, I'll do whatever I can, But it was never for me a question to be involved the way that I became involved. The other thing also, that there are those dreams. Every night, those dreams, and I don't have time to tell you about them, and I could not understand them, but there were people who came and helped me interpret those dreams, as to exactly what was going to do. So my approach into ethnomusicology was first that your total immersion into the ritual, the drumming, the playing. Remember that I am a church organist. I played the music of Bach, Buxtehude, Phillippe, all these people. So it's a transition from that to the music of voodoo. But to make a long story short, I have gone through many transitions where I am now to the point where I talk about humanocentrism and so on. But I've been very concerned, and I think we are all concerned, about what has been going on in Haiti. Now, 40 years ago, let's say 30-some years ago, it was clear that things were not going well. But today, it's even worse. And then how do we conciliate our research, our understanding, our practicing, as Houngan, Manbo, and with what's going on in Haiti? So where I am now is very surprising. From that journey to here, I'm concerned about what we need to do, we must do, because Haiti will not be liberated. I mean, we're doing extremely well in the diaspora all over the world. Haitians are, flourishing. We're doing, we don't even mention some of the names. You know who they are. But if we don't set our house in order on the ground in Haiti today as it is, then the rest, we can do it as we're holding. Now, but I'm very concerned, and I know you also are concerned about the state of Haiti and the role that Vodou can play, because Vodou has always played that very important role from way before Bwa Kayiman, from the slave ship, from the Middle Passage, all the way up to the plantation, the survival. Vodou has been this centerpiece, the pillar that holds the society together. But we must move beyond that. The last thing I want to say is a great concern of mine. Those of us who are well educated, we are samples of what Haiti can be and what Haiti has done. But Haiti right now has 60 to 70% of the people who cannot read or write their mother tongue, which is the Haitian Creole. I believe we cannot go very far until we decide to have a campaign to teach all Haitians how to read and write. And that, I suggest, could begin in the Peristilles. Because the Peristil itself has been a conservatory where you learn the song, the music, has been an art center, has been an institute of life. Now we have to take it one step beyond, turn it into an institute for alphabetization, for literacy, for universal literacy and cultural literacy. And we get some answers right now that those of us in academia may not know. There are many forums out there which are being put together by practitioners, Manbo, Houngan, Laplace, and there are some forums that have as many as 300 people, 400 people every day conversing. And the idea of how do we get out of this situation, how do we begin to find a way out, and the idea of literacy begins to take some roots, that people looking at the Peristilles as a focus, as a locus, as a lieu to not only practice Vodou, which has been focused, that's always focused on well-being, on health, but it's going to focus also on mental well-being, on literacy, on teaching people how to read and write, and from that, because you cannot build a society from the top. It has to be built from the bottom up. And the bottom up begins with cultural literacy. So your question, that's a long way to answer your question. What has been the surprise to me, that this is a fellow who grew up in the Protestant church and now is at a different level. And by the way, I'm not the only one. I could give you the name of so many people who grew up in the Protestant church. And now they are some of our greatest artists. They are Houngan, Manbo, and we need to come together to see how we can put our heads, our shoulders, and to turn our temples in Haiti and Peristil as centers of literacy. Final things. Research are being done by organizations such as Zantrai, Bordé National, KNVA. There are a whole series of organizations on the ground, and they have done a dénombrement. We know we have at least 6,000 or 7,000 Peristilles throughout the country. So if we turn them into institutes of liberation, then that's the beginning of the struggle. And I believe some of you know it already, but I like to mention it, that those of us in academia need to link our research with the practical work which is being done right now in Haiti as a way to begin to come out of this dire situation that the country is in now. So let me stop here and take some of the questions. In fact, I like to quiet down and listen to the young people, because it's such a pleasure for me to listen those young Mambos talking about their research and the work that they're doing. Hi, Bobo. Are you with me? It seems that you have lost me.
No, you're still there. It's the technology that takes a little time. You know, you could have spoken for the rest of the night. We're all enthralled listening. Thank you so much for sharing it. And you know what? We could not imagine ken l'église protestant.
I was going to be an Episcopal priest.
Okay, which is the first thing that I think we
And by
need
the way,
to.
some of my friends in the Episcopal Church said to me, no problem, because you have on the original calling.
Absolutely excellent. And I think all of you raise some very important points, because I think, and the concern about Haiti, in my opinion, and I might have read that somewhere, the reason why we are where we are is because the country and the people are going through an identity crisis. We don't know who we are. We didn't do it alone. We certainly did not do it alone. We all know that, because part of the project of the colonial project was erasing that African identity, demonize that African identity, demonize the language. You know, everything that we came with, and which actually sustained us and kept us to be where we are till today, was under attack, was assaulted every day. And lo and behold, when we turn our schools over to the West, I mean, that's what it was. I think it contributed to that sense of alienation that many of us live with every day. I mean, I grew up in Peristyle. I spoke Creole, but I know the embarrassment that I felt going to Saint Anne, going to Marianne, or having my mother come to school and not be able to speak French, because that was a sin. And I think this identity crisis, this self-hatred, this self-alienation is partly the reason why, partly I said, because Jemima Pia would tell you, well, we all know it's very manufactured. But it's certainly part of it is our alienation. It's not knowing who we are anymore, going away from that. And I really love the idea that you mentioned that the Peristyle should become learning centers where we know the songs, and teaching people to read and write Creole through the songs, through the prayers, through the things, through those practices. So thank you so much. And of course, the night is young, but now, Manbo, Alexandra, c'est Tellien. This question is for you, and you can take us on your own journey. Despite the work of researchers and educators who say otherwise, school and other institutions continue to frame Creole languages as problems in need of fixing. As a scholar, a young scholar of Vodouizan, how has Kreyol and langage been a solution and positive resource in your own life and more broadly within the Haitian communities that you are connected with?
Yes. Merci en pile, Doctor, for that question. And I'm just really sitting and resonating with what Gerdès and you, Dr. Cerat, have said just about Kreyol, and thinking about the role that the colonial project, the colonial empire has constructed against like our Creole languages, against our identity. And right, and for a far long time, these institutions have tried to silence, they have tried to devalue these languages through various forms of violence, like lexical, discursive, and epistemological violence. And these violences are rooted in just a really deep misunderstanding of the cultural, the spiritual, and the linguistic values that are deeply embedded in our Creole languages, because as we know, right, like language carries culture, language carries a paradigm, a worldview. And so when you have that, when you have the colonial project that is undermining all of that, like Glenzana said in her poems, like we don't know ourselves, we are scared to know ourselves. And so for me, how Kreyol and langage has been solutions, they have been solutions for me and the Haitian community at large, and specifically in working against the erasure, the disempowerment, and the cultural degradation that is constantly being forced down to us. And so these languages, like as we are thinking about tonight, these languages are tools of liberation. And I'm specifically thinking about langage and Kreyol and how they remain and they help us to stay connected to our past while we are still able to envision and forge a future. And so for me, as both, right, a devotee of Vodou and a scholar, these languages and thinking about them, working through and with them, they have been more than just a means of communication. I think of these languages as foundational tools that continuously affirm my commitment to sovereignty and to a liberated Haiti. And they're constantly serving as reminders that our liberation is rooted in both the cultural and the spiritual self-determination. And so they're constantly guiding my work and honoring that legacy. And I'm thinking right now of like growing up in Gonaïve, and it was through Kreyol that I first learned to see the world. It was through Kreyol that I was enculturated. And it's through these languages that I was able to hear my great-grandmother's prayers, to hear my community's stories. Like I learned about the history of Bwa Kayiman, I learned about the history of Vodou through this language. And so it has always been and always allowed me to root myself in a broader understanding of my own culture and my own history. And I think this would have been completely gone. And if I was to be educated and forced to embrace a colonial language like French. And again, this goes back to the concept that languages, they carry culture with them. And so historically, as Papi Toto have said, Kreyol has been marginalized and it has been viewed less valuable than French or other colonial languages like Spanish. So for me, and others have also mentioned, Kreyol is really the true language of the Haitian people. It's what binds us all together. Like if you go to Haiti, all of us, we go under the banner of Kreyol. And so I'm thinking along the lines with academic institutions and research, the absence of Kreyol really creates this gap between formal education and the everyday lives that people live. And so if we are truly want to empower future generations and to foster a culture of intellectual independence, I think that we must embrace Kreyol as a language of learning, a language of research, a language of scholarship, and it must be seen as a legitimate language of knowledge production and allowing Haitian scholars, Haitian students to engage with their culture in very deep and meaningful ways. And so by elevating Kreyol in academic spaces, I think we can truly ensure that we as scholars and the students, we are learning our own cultural paradigms and our own cultural worldviews unimpeded by those colonial linguistic barriers. And so by doing that as well, we also creating a space for Haitian epistemologies to shine and come through. And when we do that, and when we allow for Haitian epistemology to come through, I think then that's when we can and we can really imagine a true and liberated Haiti that's, again, unimpeded by these linguistic cultural barriers, because French, other colonial languages cannot imagine the sort of revolution that we want to bring forth and to bring into reality. And so for me, as an upcoming Haitian linguist, I'm always thinking and attesting to the positive outcomes, to the power of centering our native linguistic practices. And so in my own research, engaging in Haitian languages has created space for me to uplift, to bring forth Haitian voices, to be heard in academic discussions, bringing stories forth, the rituals, the linguistic complexities, and the nuances to the forefront, and challenging Western dominant academic narratives that seeks constantly to misinterpret our cultural richness and our nuances in very blunt ways and in very violent ways. And so I just cannot also imagine a world in which Haitian languages, both Kreyol and langage, are not an active reality of my world. These two languages I would say, are the very fibers that connect me to my identity, that connects me to my community across generations and across geographies, and specifically thinking of the ancestors and the work that they did to create, to bolster up this language. And so for me, speaking in Creole is like tapping into centuries of these knowledge. Yes, that's it. Fini.
You know, the technology part, that was brilliant. And I'm going to, and I'm sure you know already, I'm going to use the word of our linguist, the father of Haitian linguistics, to kind of bolster what you just say, Yves Dejean, which I'm sure you have read, and he left us a legacy of things for us to work and make that language be valued, respected, and be what it is, really, as you said. The language, one's language is one soul.
Mm-hmm.
It's one soul. It's not just your identity, it's you, and it carries so much. I'm not a linguist, but as an educator, I have to use language. I must use language, and being a bilingual Haitian teacher and working with Haitian students in Haitian Creole, I see when you use one's language, what could be achieved. They would, my last experience in 2016, teaching Haitian children in their language, having critical analysis, great discussion. My class, and you can go to the retired principal or that school, they score one of the highest scores in math and English language arts that time, using NLE, using the native language as the foundation for them. And Dejean says that Haiti will not cross the road, the bridge to progress, if we do not use Haitian Creole to educate every Haitian, because that's the place where the knowledge that our ancestors left for us, that's where it sits. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where a speaker did a big expose in French, and at the end, no one asked questions until one courageous person comes forward and asks a question in Creole, and then you see the line forming. So and of course I am a Dejean follower. I think you need to read the work of Michel Degraff, if you haven't, another proponent, another big defender of Creole, who understand that Creole has all that is required to speak anything, science, scientific, a personal, academic, so on and so forth. So I'm excited, like Houngan, Dr. Gerdès, Fleurant, to see young folks like you embracing and continuing the work that has long started. But we need more. We need more of you. We need more of you. And the next question is for both of you. And take your time and talk to us, because we have time. In the context of Haiti's Bwa Kayiman ceremony, how was language and music used to create solidarity and a unified sense of identity in the fight for freedom? Should I repeat that again? No? Or is it good?
Yeah, it's okay. But I like to listen to
no. Well,
person.
in your experiences, how have language and music been used in cultivating that liberatory consciousness? We want to hear from you, because the wisdom of folks of your generation, I'm still prisé. Ma prisé la donne toujours.
Okay. No, it would have been much easier for me to speak in Creole, but we have to speak in English, but no problem. It's very clear that music is at the core of life, the heartbeat, the drumming, and all that. The question I'm posing is that how can we use music as a tool of liberation? Music has always been present in everything that we do, because you know why people sing is because we did not have a haut-parleur, we didn't have a microphone. So when you sing, then you can hear better. You take time to enunciate and to vocalize and to present the message. So music and language, they are partners, they are cousins, they are inseparable. The words and the melodies are inseparable. But besides that, too, you have the rhythm. And in Voodoo, you have a marriage of 4 parts. You have the voice, the singing, the drumming, and you have the words, and you have the dancing. Because sometimes people don't associate dancing as a part of the movement of life. Voodoo is a dance religion, for lack of a better word. There is a big discussion right now whether voodoo is a religion, whatever, but it's very clear among the practitioners, the forms I'm talking about. You have form Vaudou Haïtien, Ascensions Ancêtres, you have a whole series of forms, and it's being discussed. But so will we use the word religion. Religion means to come together, to bring people together. So those of us who come together, we have formed the 21 nations, the 101 nations, the 401 nations coming together, trying to speak with one voice. So we'll say that it's a religion. Voodoo is a dance religion. So you have the singing, you have the drumming, you have the instruments, particularly you have the flutes, the home main instrument, you have the bamboo, the vaccine. These are instruments which are made that you use them in Wawa. And let's understand that you have a range of approach. You have what's happening under the peristyle with the dancing. You have the rites. You have the style. Rites are nothing else but styles of worship. The way that the Rada do it, the way that the Congo, the way that Igbo, the Petro, and the Congo Petro, the way that they do it. So when you have the music in the peristyle, you have primarily the drumming and the singing and the dancing. Now, when you move as an extension of the peristyle, you're going to go into the Rara, which itself is the most vivid manifestation of voodoo, because all the Rara bands, groups, they are all attached to a peristyle. And it is itself, as a matter of fact, a requirement for peristyle to have the Rara. So when the Rara is going to come out, you have a 2-3 hour ceremony at the peristyle. For the non-initiated, they said you have chauffé, the warming up, but it's a whole ritual taking place, and then you go out. So in the Rara, you have the trump, the vaccine, that I'm talking about the original, something that we would see before the 1960s, 1780s. Today, you have a lot of Western European instruments. You have a trumpet, trombone, saxophones, and a full orchestra. But before that, if you take the original, you have the bamboo, the vaccine, which themselves are always, in 3 parts. You have the big one, the middle, and the top. Because the music replicates the language, because the African languages are what is known as tonal languages, that the words have inflections, and the drumming mimic the inflection. In fact, what we talk about talking drums, all drums from Africa are talking drums because they express something. So, so when a word is being said, the word is reinforced by the drumming, and the drumming is being reinforced by the dancing. So how the music is seen as a tool for liberation? Voodoo as a complex of life, it's itself an instrument of liberation. So what does that mean? And what does liberation means? Let me go back to that lavitet. And I'm talking to us as academics because our heads are full, very well full, with notions we are not in our best interest. So we have to liberate ourselves from those notions. So the lavetet, the washing of the head, is a cleansing. So that is basic. So music is a tool of liberation. Of course, that's what it is. Everything that being said is said in the songs. For example, look at the songs. Those beautiful songs you get from your grandmother, the songs that we got, from the Papiamento. But the song also in the peristyle. This is what I call action direction. The song will tell you, go do something. For example, somebody says, Alexandra, wa rentre dans ou fort, wa wan collier veve, wa prendre potel pour moi. Tell you, Alexandra, you go into the unfor and you see that collier, you take it and bring it out. In fact, as the ceremony, the ritual progresses, the songs are going to tell you what's going to happen, because a voodoo ceremony is divided in many parts. You start with the prayers, which have generated tremendous controversy as to we're going to have the Catholic litanies followed by the Africans. So that I'm going to leave it aside. But in any ceremony, if you're going to light the candles, differ. And whatever is going to happen, it is being sung because the song is extremely important as part, of life. So music as a tool for liberation, what does that mean? It means that you feel good. One very important thing I've discovered in my involvement, I would not even say research, but in my parcours, is that people who practice voodoo are never apologetic. Because you see, those of us who are scholars, if you look at the literature is quite apologetic. We're trying to explain to our tormentors that we are people, and we quote it in a language for them. The voodoo doesn't have this kind of audience. We are our audience. And the people who practice it, they never have to apologize. And that's what we are. That's life. And voodoo is not a practice of some time or certain days. It's a 7-day a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's a total immersion. Everything that you do at your work, in Haiti or abroad, a voodoo practitioner, you are always practicing. So what's the role of the music? The music is central, because music is central to our life. We sing everything. If we hurt, we sing. We happy, we sing. And so it's interesting. So let me stop there and to hear what the young people have to tell us.
Merci en pile, Papa Toto, for that. I'm gonna keep my answer very, very short. I'm really thinking, this question really makes me think of Nana Cabral when he says you measure a people's potential for liberation based on how different their culture is from that of their oppressors. Again, let me repeat that. You measure a people's potential for liberation based on how different their culture is from that of their oppressors. And when I'm thinking about the liberation of Haiti, this quote for me speaks directly to that essence. For me, it's representing and it's saying that our ability to be free is rooted in how much we embrace and utilize, again, our indigenous African worldviews, our cosmologies, and our paradigms. And what I've been saying all night, I think, is that when we speak Kreyol, we are activating the tools that connects us to our heritage and again, to our unique ways of seeing and being in this world and knowing in this world. And so when we think beyond language as just simply means of communication, but rather they are living systems of knowledge and power, I think that's when we can really, again, excavate notions and ideas of liberation, because the freedom that we're seeking, I think we'll find it within the linguistic and sonic landscapes where, again, the visions of these liberations can thrive. So the scapes, I'm thinking rather through the rhythms of Vodou, like Papi Toto is saying, or the sound, the actual sound, the embodiment of the sounds of our ancestral tongues, they all together, they remind us of who we were before colonization attempted to break our spirits. And so again, Granzana and others keep saying that language, they carry our memories, they carry the memories, our Creole tongue, our ancestral languages, they carry the memories of our ancestors, they carry the strength of our communities, and also the limitless possibilities that are available when we fight and when we unite for liberation. And so again, I'm just going to end and really challenge and really ask and charge us to tap into the Creole languages, to tap into our African languages, so that we can dream of and then enact a true and liberated Haiti, because that liberation, that worldview, we're not going to find it in these colonial languages. We will not find it in French. And so when I listen to the rhythms of our music, when I listen to the rhythms that is invoked in the langage and in prayers, I feel deeply the African ancestors, our African ancestors who fought, who refused to be silent, who fought for our freedom. And so these cultural tools of expressions in these pathways through which we work and continue the work of liberation. And so again, I think it is through Kreyol, it's through langage that we remember our strategies, we remember our prayers, we remember those songs of liberation, not as, again, this abstract thing that's up in the ethos, but as a reality that we can conjure, as a reality that we can bring forth, and as a reality that has been fought for and continues to be realized today throughout Haitian communities.
I'd like to say a word. Can you hear me?
Oui, Papi Toto.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. The song Papiamento, I was looking at the translation, said rats will set the tables, rats will clean the house, rats will do everything that we used to do, but we're not doing it no more. And this is so beautiful. And you have to be liberated to keep this kind of language, the way that you are not intimidated by your oppressors anymore. So that's very interesting. And that you can express it. It's poetry. In fact, poetry lyrics, they're all part of the same complex.
Absolutely. I just wanted to add here, based on the little digging and reflection, and my, connection to the Vodou songs, which we know all carry so much to us, so much passed down, so much knowledge. But when you think that the resources that the slave masters had, writing tools, if we did not use songs to kind of remember certain things, to commit it to memory, how much we would have lost. So Vodou songs are so rich. I mean, those 4 lines, you go there, you sit there and you analyze, you break it open. Every time you knock, 1,000 words come out, a full story come out. But it was our ancestors' brilliance to use songs, to use proverbs, to commit to memory things that they wanted to leave for us. And I think returning to those songs and knocking them and opening them are tools for us to realize the Haiti they envision for us. And which is why not until we make peace with the fact that we are people, we are an African people, we invented this language and reinvented our African practices on that island, and this is who we are. The road is gonna take us, it's gonna be much longer. But I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful when I hear Manbo, Alexandra, when I hear Houngan calling to young people, and when I hear you also telling us and them, our replacements, hey, the Vodou temple, the 7,000 needs to become schools, not just schools for us to gather and do the rituals for the ancestors, but schools where we can teach people how to write those songs, how to read those songs, and take that knowledge to other places. This has been an amazing conversation, and I know Colin, Alexandra, well, Manbo, Kadidra, my good friend, we came from the same program. I'm so proud of you. So proud of you. I know we leave some time for participants, attendees to ask questions, to get not just ask questions, to make comments and engage in an exchange before we let these folks go. And which I should have encouraged people to post questions, and I hope they did. They're so used to this. I'm sure some people have dropped questions in the chat for us, right?
Yeah, we made sure that that it's in the chat. But I think I will ask a softball question while people are formulating their questions.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, first of all, this is a beautiful moment for several reasons. One is because, Papi Toto, you know that you are my inspiration for sure, for real, for real. We have so much in common because, like you, I started as a classical vocalist. Like you, I perform Buxtehude, Mozart, Bach, all these things. And my entrance into Vodou is grown from my love of the voice. And your work, Manbo Alexandra, is absolutely inspiring. Whoever's texting me, please stop. It's very, very inspiring, and I think there's so much overlap. The question I have is about not just the what, but the how. And by the how, I'm really talking about, the corporeality of the tool that we're talking about, which is music, right? For example, in your book, Papi Toto, you talked about the undulating form of the melodies when it comes to the drum and the conversation. You talk about the drums and the conversation in incredible detail. And with every conversation, we know that there is syntax, right? The syntax often comes with the high, the medium, the low, the sound, the frequency, the harmonic progression that comes with the music as it is being created. Similarly, in langage, the way that we speak, the muscles that we create to make that sound of the language, the body that we utilize to create a particular way we want to connote what we're trying to say. So sometimes it's not just what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. So I want to bring in both of you to think about, to maybe talk a little bit more about the how. How does, not just what we play, but how does the music and the language, the type of things that we do with our body to make a difference? I asked this question because I remember reading in C.L.R. James's The Black Jacobins, one of the things that he brings forth was one of the colonizers was like, something about the music is giving them power. We don't know, right? I might be playing something, but if I really want you to know what I'm saying, I might play it a certain way. I might sing it a certain way. I might say it in a certain way. And that creates a different way with how we express ourselves through this physical vessel. So I wonder if we can talk about the how a little bit, and the reason why the how is important. One more thing, the reason why the how is important, because I want to know how we can use those same tools that we're talking about Bwa Kayiman today, how we can use langage today, how we can use the conversation of these drums today, you know? So either of you can start. I know that was a lot.
Colin, I really return the compliment to you too, because as a young person, we understand each other and from the same background. But let me take about just a Yanvalu. The Yanvalu, the drumming itself. Let me say a few words for the public, for people listening, about the drum, the chorus. The drums that you hear, they come in a set of 3. You have the bigger one that is called the mama. And you have this middle one, it's called the second. And the small one is called the bula or the bebe. And each one plays a different patterns. And when you put it together, it gives you the ensemble. The very interesting one is the second one. We have to go pum 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 pum, and that's the one too that gives you that movement. Now the Yanvalu is the music that is played for all the Rada entities, and they are Legba, Loko, Aiza, Marasa, Dambala, and so on. You go down the whole group, the whole escort of the Yanvalu, of the Rada. And the Rada, they come actually from Benin, from Dahomey, and or the Arada, and I don't need to go too much into that. But the Yanvalu is the dance that goes with the serpent. And the serpent is the undulation. And that undulation actually deals with the flexibility that is required for life. Because if you are too rigid, you're going to break. If you are too flexible, you are nowhere. But that's the right undulation. So the dance of the serpent and the movement of the serpent, the way that you move. And I can tell you how is this music can be a foundation for liberation. In voodoo, what is happening at the dance, at the peristyle, it is true. There is nothing about it. Even when people are fooling around, the entities don't fool around. If you sing, they hear. If you play the drum, they hear. Even if they are not manifested, but they are there. So what is very important and interesting, in the Yanvalu, in the drumming, pum pum, pim 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 pum pum. It's really gives you that movement. Now, so you have the Yanvalu, and it's played with the mama, the second, and the bula. The bula, pada, 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 pim, pim, and the second, and the, and then you have this fantastic chorus of music, this great sound coming out. And what's going to happen? People are going to come into trance. And there is one important element, is this is what in the language of the oppressor we call it syncopation. Of course, it's not syncopation, it's cassé tambour. Because when the music is going and you break the drum, then what's happened? It breaks the psychology, and then it opens the gate, for the entity to enter. And I can tell you, in my parcours, in my experience, before going back to Haiti, then when I learned to play the drum and I begin to, as a drummer and participating in many ceremonies in the diaspora, particularly right here in New York. And I was at a place where I was playing, and my tête was already, I was a lave tête, but I was not initiated yet. And I was playing, and there were many Houngan and Manbo, and one fellow, was about to go into trance. And I keep playing, my Yanvalu, very nice, very nice. And the Houngan looked at me and said, casse tambour. And I casse tambour, pop! And the guy immediately stopped and go into trance. And that was the next level. Because at that, I did not know it was going to happen. It's when it happens, but it's true. It's not a joke. That's a real thing. So how can that be a tool for liberation? Liberation has many levels, but let me talk about two levels. One is the material corporal level that we see, but the other one is the spiritual level, and it's the foundation of liberation. When you play that music, you hear that music, and when you feel liberated, and that's why I'm talking about being non-apologetic. When you feel good, you feel at peace with yourself, then that's when you are liberated. Then you feel very debonair. You feel very good toward humanity. But when you are in pain, you don't have time to think about your sisters, your brothers, your cousins. But when you are liberated, fully liberated, you are at peace with yourself, then you are really to partake, with humanity. So the music, the drumming, with the dancing is a central element in that kind of spiritual liberation, which is the foundation of total liberation that we're going to see in the infrastructure, in the road buildings, in agriculture, in everything that we do. But you need to have that internal spiritual liberation. How do you get to there? It's a process. And how do you know you get there? And I could assure you, when you get it, you'll know it. Okay.
Manbo, Alexandra, do you want to? Oh,
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Just because we're running out of time. So I do want to get to some of the other questions. There are a lot of questions in the chat that we're not going to get to. So we're going to, and we can't get to them all, but we'll see, what we can. So Manbo Alexandra, there was a question posed from Dr. Laurent Peralt, who says, how are Vodou scholars and practitioners building a 21st century version of that marooning needed to reach the global consensus and love Haiti needs in order to challenge and neutralize the westernized relentless attack against all things Haitian? And the preface of that was that, that you reminded us that there are Africans from at least 21 ethnic groups, suggesting the major work marooning that they had to accomplish to build that consensus. So, how are Vodou scholars and practitioners working to build a 21st century version of that?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Specifically, I'm thinking, I want to expand the question and think more broadly about the work of Africans, not just of Haitians, not just in academia, but in local communities. I think right now how folks are building a 21st century Mawonage per se is, I think there is a strong need that we're seeing towards re-Africanization and looking towards the continent and looking for solution, looking for strategies that are not rooted again in colonial understanding of liberation, are not rooted in colonial ideas of what liberation means. And so we see a lot of people in the Haitian communities and even Africans more broadly going back to their traditions, initiating and bringing forth that ancestral wisdom, ancestral ritual tools and technologies for the freedom and fight for liberation. And I'm saying I want to expand the question outside of academia, because I think there is always a push for us. Yes, this is an academic discussion, but there is always a push for us to kind of center and look at the work in academia, but we have to broaden it and opening up to connect, as Papi Toto is saying, to connect the work in the community. So bringing that scholarship to our communities, because scholarship research is not just for research's sake. That's a Western idea that we just do research and get tenured and be, in an ivory tower, but research is meant to be liberatory. And so I'm seeing a lot of folks really questioning, like, why they're here. What's my mission? Like, what role can I play in this? And for a lot of Vodou practitioners, I think, again, they're looking towards the continent for answers about what their ancestors have done. They're bringing forth those ritual technologies. They're engaging in these African epistemologies and worldviews. They're bringing forth the language, the prayers. And I think that helps us build a better strategy for the liberation of not just Haitians, but Africans and Black people worldwide.
Awesome, awesome. And we have one, so along those same lines, we have a complementary question that we're going to pose. This is going to be our final question that we're going to pose to both Dr. Gerdès and Manbo Alexandra. This one is from Cesar Salam, who says, thank you both for the great presentations and conversations. Given that the Haitian language includes other non-African languages, how does that affect our ability to utilize our language for liberation? What can be done to further re-Africanize our language to best serve our interests of liberation and self-determination? Okay. So thoughts on re-Africanizing Haitian language, and perhaps also, movements that we know underfoot of re-Africanizing Vodou practice. Any thoughts on that?
Take the language first. Alexandra?
Yes,
Manbo?
I was gonna say, thank you so much, Sissa, for this question. I'm thinking specifically what you said about the non-African, that the Haitian language includes like non-African languages. And we know part of that is from this like violent history and violent encounters with colonial powers. But I think, as you're alluding to, the strength of Kreyol lies in its ability to synthesize various African languages that, again, are rooted in our own understanding. And so the presence of these African elements, I think there's a big push for us to identify with those non-African elements. So I'm thinking more of like how Kreyol, we valorize a Frenchified Kreyol, ou parler français, ou parler un Kreyol qui smooth. And so I think how we can reclaim and re-Africanize our language to best serve our interests of liberation and self-determination is what you're talking about, is, again, engaging re-Africanization. So that involves intentionally centering the African roots, mentioning the African roots, and not wanting to, centering the African roots and not wanting to constantly barrage these Creole languages with just the colonial histories. And we have to, again, center the spiritual foundation that are embedded in these languages, and we cannot separate those two. And so for me, thinking about a re-Africanization of Kreyol, it means to reinvigorate the language with the African worldviews, the values, like the paradigms that we place on community, on solidarity, on resistance at the forefront. And as Papi Toto was saying, we can use these peristyle as a place of institution where that re-Africanization can begin. We can use our families, our homes, to develop ourselves and our children and let them know that Kreyol is an African language. It's an African language with power and with history, and we shouldn't erase that. We can do that, again, with our rituals, pushing forth that we shouldn't be, again, speaking French whenever possible. Yes, we're speaking even in English now, but whenever possible, to engage in our own paradigms. And I think that will challenge the colonial narratives that frames Kreyol as inferior language. And I think also challenge our own paradigm and our own notions of self, and for us to see Kreyol as fundamentally an African language.
That's wonderful. I only say one thing, and I agree with everything that has been said, but I like to remind you that the music of the peristyle has never been de-Africanized. That's a place where it has remained quite constant. And we have done some tests with the tape of music that we have heard from the 1930s and compared them to those who are in the 1960s. And up to today, it remains very faithful to the African way. And that even, astonished many Africans when they come to this country and they hear that music. They think, how can you manage for 300 years to maintain this music? So that's one area where the music has not been de-Africanized. So we don't need to re-Africanize it. Aibobo.
Aibobo, Aibobo. Thank you so, so very much. Elder Houngan Dr. Gerdès Fleurant, Manbo Alexandra St. Tellien, Dr. Marie-Lily Cerat, Dr. Louis Phillippe Romer. Thank you so very much. This has been really, really rich. You've all taught us tremendously. And we're so much better and invigorated and strengthened from your work. So thank you all so very much. We are going to now turn it over to Manbo Dr. Charlene Desir, who's going to offer some closing remarks.
Can you hear me?
Hold on.
Yes, we can.
We're going to spotlight you first. Hold on.
Okay.
Voila.
I had the opportunity to go to Bwa Kayiman 2 years ago. And to show you the generosity of these people, I just showed up. And the Uga in the community just said, okay, you are here. I came with a friend. We had never been there before. And he said, we're going to do ceremony for you. And for the evening, we had ceremony. And the next day, we slept in Nats. He's like, you have to go out and buy the ingredients, buy a black pig. And we were welcome, not as foreigners, but as children of the ancestors. And, in that, the following day, he took us to the cave where the actual ceremony took place. And the vibration there was strong. And the folks in the Laku came. And those of you who know me, I have some limitations. And I was called on to sacrifice the black pig. So, there is an anchor. Haiti needs us and we need Haiti. Haiti needs us and we need Haiti. The historical code is in Haiti. And Bwa Kayiman give us remembrance. And in that honoring, Cécile Fatima came and said, est-ce que nous pas honte? C'est haïtien nous yé. Gardez suivre ça qu'a fait. Est-ce que nous oubliez? C'est haïtien nous yé. Are we remembering what we are? We may know who we are, but do we remember the vibration of what we are? And that has humbled me. Papi Toto Gerdès Fleurant has known me since I was 18 years old and has witnessed me emerge into my confidence. And I think it's important that we see that. And Manbo, I honor you. You are the future, the light, the vibration that is happening because Bwa Kayiman is not stagnant. It continues in its evolution. So as I stay with you and hear your words and honoring and Houngan Gerdès, Papi Toto, he asked that we begin to and continue to have intergenerational conversations in healing, intergenerational conversations in love, because in this process, our ancestors are coming back in the voice and the remembrance of what and who we are. And as we think about where Haiti is today, we must recognize that are we still at the same place? Have we evolved, or do we still persist in the resistance? The resistance of what it is to be Black, great, beautiful, powerful, ancestral beings, cosmic energies. Do we resist in colonized ways that cannot understand the fabric of who, how, and why we are? So thank you so much for those who have organized this conversation. Thank you so much for those who have come in ceremony with us to witness and ask questions. Thank you for the speakers. Thank you for the founders of Kosamba and those on the board. And I welcome you to be your Bwa Kayiman every single day, to be in conversations that all of us, whether we are of African descent or if we are allies of liberation, to continue to defend and to deny the truths and the mistruths that do not exist in our bloodline. Aibobo bilolo, ao and we continue to resist.
Aibobo, aibobo.
Thank you, Khadija.
As we go.
Thank you for our moderator, Aibobo.
All right. Thank you.
Fantastic. Aibobo.
Aibobo, President Yannick.
Chilling.
And we
Oh,
so we can see everybody calling.
Somebody was asking me something. I'm sorry.
Oh, can we see?
oh, qui sont à même chanter?
On continue chanter, OK? Bala na kai.
Oh, Seibo Yevida Seibo Yevida Naide Seibo Yevida Seibo Yevida Naide Dambala Vie Saligreto Dambala Vie Saligreto Oegi Se agause ago, lisa gonde loyo, se iboye vida, naide ago, lisa gonde loyo, se iboye vida, naide.
Aibobo.
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 A note on alignment. Mambo Charlene and I, as we were talking earlier about what we would do for the prayer, that was the first song that we thought of.
Yes, we wanted that.
Aibobo. We were going to sing that song and decided to sing Lumia instead. Aibobo Poloyo, Aibobo.
Aibobo, you're toujours là, Aibobo.
You're toujours là.
Sec là.
OK.
Merci.
OK.
We are all engaged.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Kosamba_. Okay, for more. We have another thing coming up in December. So please follow us if you want to know what we are doing next. Thank you all.